Imagine someone claiming to control 98% of the world. Pretty wild, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a hook. It's the claim made in the source material we're diving into today.
Absolutely. Welcome, learner. You've given us something really, well, different this time. Excerpts from a YouTube transcript, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, the audiobook version from Hustler's Motivation.
Hmm.
And as always, this deep dive is for you. We take what you give us, sift through it, and pull out the key ideas, quickly, thoroughly, without getting bogged down.
Whether you're prepping for a meeting, catching up on a topic, or just, curious.
Exactly. And this source, it's unusual, not your typical study. It's framed as a dialogue, an interview with the devil.
Which immediately signals we're dealing with allegory,
Right.
a personification of negative forces, not necessarily a literal interview.
Right. That was my first thought, too. Okay, this is creative. But
Okay.
you look past the theatrical setup, and there are some genuinely interesting points about mindset and influence.
Definitely. So our mission today is to unpack those core ideas. What's this devil figure representing? What are the takeaways about controlling our own minds, avoiding those negative pulls?
Okay, let's jump in. So this figure, this devil, claims he's the source of pretty much all misery.
His role, as he states it, is negativity. And he controls minds by filling the unused space in our brains with negative thoughts.
It's a stark contrast he draws. There's a positive force controlling positive thought, and then there's him controlling the negative.
Simple but powerful image. And he uses, quote, clever tricks and devices for this mind control.
And the main weapon, fear.
Yes, fear is presented as the primary tool.
He even lists them out, the 6 big ones: fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death.
And he highlights poverty and death as, like, his go-to fears, the most effective.
Because they're so fundamental, I guess, survival and mortality.
Exactly. They tap into primal anxieties. And the really insidious part, he claims, is planting these fears so cleverly we think they're our own ideas.
Yeah, that we generate them ourselves. He even mentions using the idea of, hell or post-death punishment as a tool.
And that line about the fear of something non-existent being just as useful as fear of the real thing, that's quite an insight into belief, isn't it?
It really is. So where did this all start? According to him, it began when the first humans started to think independently.
Before that, he supposedly had free reign. Then his enemies arrived, the ones who introduced positive, independent thought. That started the battle.
A battle he claims he's winning with that 98% success rate.
And who are these enemies? People who inspire thinking. He named Socrates, Confucius, Voltaire, Emerson, Thomas Paine, Lincoln.
Figures who champion free thought makes sense within his framework. They're the opposition.
Right. The ones who encourage people not to just accept things passively.
Okay, so what is this devil figure? Where does he live? He says time and space don't matter. He's more like energy.
Yeah, energy is the word used, a negative energy. In his favorite place to be, inside the minds of people on Earth.
He claims a piece of everyone's brain space, basically. More space if you think less or think negatively.
But crucially, he admits he can't totally control someone who thinks. An active thinking mind is resistant.
So that's key for you, learner. Thinking is presented as the defense mechanism.
His opposition, he says, controls the positive forces: love, faith, hope, optimism, positive natural laws. But he kind of dismisses them as meek.
Less powerful than his grip, apparently.
That's his claim. And how does he get more power? By appropriating mind power when people die. That 98% statistic again.
If they die holding on to fear, he takes over their mind power. So he works on instilling fear throughout life.
It's a consistent theme. Fear is the gateway.
Let's look at his methods while we're alive. Poverty is one. He says it discourages thinking, makes people easier to control.
And ill health, same reason. It distracts, discourages active thought. These are real-world conditions he claims to exploit.
He also talks about having agents everywhere, in every job, race, religion.
Helpers, essentially. The often unwitting ones, perhaps.
Interestingly, wealth isn't automatically bad in his eyes. Some rich people help his cause, but others, like Rockefeller, are enemies because they use wealth to, fight disease, advance knowledge, empower people.
So it's about the use of resources, not just having them. Does it foster independence or dependence?
Right. And he targets youth, too. Liquor, cigarettes. He specifically calls out cigarettes for breaking down persistence, concentration, imagination, important thinking skills.
And that habit's clustered together. One bad habit makes others more likely.
Okay, this feels like a big one. He starts this whole confession focusing on the habit of drifting.
Define drifting, according to him.
It's basically not thinking for yourself, being pushed around by circumstances, accepting life without pushing back, not knowing what you want, having borrowed opinions, mental laziness, pretty much.
A passive state, just letting life happen to you. That sounds like the perfect condition for external control, doesn't it?
Exactly. He says it starts early, parental influence, heredity, environment. Our minds are just the sum of our habits.
And he gets in through thoughts we mistake as our own. Fear, superstition, greed, lust, revenge, anger, vanity, laziness again, all those vulnerabilities.
He even blames aimless schooling for encouraging drifting in kids.
But then he says his real number one trick, even better than that, is destroying independent thought via parents, teachers, religious instructors.
How?
By confusing kids with unprovable ideas, abstract doctrines, and especially the fear of hell or damnation.
Wow. That's a direct hit on authority figures.
It's a provocative claim. The idea is that instilling fear and dogma prevents critical independent thinking.
Because accurate thought, he says, is death to him. Fearful, discouraging thoughts, fine. Constructive, independent thoughts, that's the opposition.
He even criticizes teachers for focusing on memorizing facts instead of teaching how to think. Rote learning versus critical analysis.
And drifting, he says, is basically the same as procrastination, just putting off thinking, putting off deciding.
And humans are supposedly the only creatures that do it. Animals follow instinct. We have the choice to think, or drift.
Okay, shifting scale now. National implications. He hates the U.S. Declaration of Independence. Why?
Because it champions individual liberty and the right to think freely. A major blow to his alleged control.
And he claims credit for dictators. Mussolini, Hitler, Stalin.
Says he manipulated things because the people were already subdued by drifting. A population that doesn't think for itself is easier to lead or mislead. Again, this is his claim in the source.
He even talks about trying to cause trouble in the U.S. now, stirring up fear, undermining leaders, creating conflict between employers and employees, all to encourage drifting towards failure.
The link he makes is, individual drifting leads to national drifting, leads to failure.
And poverty is contagious among drifters, he says, while the non-drifters, the thinkers who know what they want, end up with most of the wealth.
Which fits his earlier point about wealth sometimes fostering independence. Industrial leaders building roads, power plants, providing information, he sees them as obstacles.
Because they empower people, give them tools.
Exactly. Tools for independence, connection, knowledge, all counter to drifting.
He gives a pretty clear checklist. Drifter versus non-drifter.
Yeah, let's recap that.
Yeah.
Drifter. No main purpose, vague goals, easily influenced, puts things off, blames others, weak willpower, run by habits.
Non-drifter. Definite major purpose, clear, smaller goals, knows where they're going, makes decisions quickly, self-reliant, good memory, takes responsibility, is a go-giver, uses their own mind.
It's quite the contrast, almost archetypes.
A useful list for you, learner, maybe for a bit of self-reflection. Which side do you lean towards more often?
And the cure for drifting.
Simple, according to him. Wake up and give useful service to many people. Be active, contribute.
He even suggests the advice in this very interview is so sound it proves its own authenticity. A bit circular, but okay.
And he claims he can't touch the interviewer. Why? Because the interviewer mastered fear and discovered his own mind.
His power only exists in minds clouded by fear, minds that are neglected, essentially. Hell isn't a place, it's here on Earth, in that state of mind. He's negative energy, not a physical being.
So mastery of fear and active thinking are the keys to immunity.
That's the message.
Okay, another tactic, flattery.
Ah, yes. Playing on vanity and ego to induce drifting.
He says it's used everywhere. Men flattering women, women flattering men, his agents using it to gain trust. Non-drifters supposedly aren't easily flattered.
Because they have a stronger sense of self, perhaps? Less need for external validation based on ego?
Maybe. He gives examples like women using baby talk and appealing to a man's ego about his strength or success. Selling men their own inflated ego, basically.
It's about manipulating perception through ego stroking. The underlying mechanic is sound, even if the examples feel a bit dated.
Another tool, inducing failure.
How does that lead to drifting?
It destroys morale, self-confidence, enthusiasm, imagination, definiteness of purpose, all the things that keep you from drifting. He claims most people just quit after a few failures.
Which highlights the importance of resilience, doesn't it? Seeing failure as temporary defeat, not the end of the road.
Definitely. Then there's propaganda. He claims he invented it.
Okay, what's its function?
To dull reason, weaken willpower, lure people into drifting. How? By planting negative ideas subtly, making you think they're your own.
Sounds familiar in today's world, right? The subtle shaping of opinion.
Totally. He even says he turns people into propagandists themselves, maybe baiting them with something they desire, but lacing it with a poison that promotes drifting. Even people suffering misfortune can spread negativity unintentionally.
The unwilling workers, spreading fear or negativity because they're caught in it themselves.
So, how do we fight back? The source gives 10 points for protection.
Okay, let's hear them.
1. Do your own thinking, always. 2. Decide what you want, plan, be willing to sacrifice. 3. Analyze temporary defeat, find the good in it. 4. Give useful service first, before expecting returns.
Makes sense.
What else? 5. Recognize your brain connects to infinite intelligence, potential. 6. Budget your time well. 7. No fear is just a filler, replace it with faith or positive focus. 8. When you pray or set intentions, demand, don't beg. Be assertive.
Interesting distinction there.
9. Master life, don't let it master you. Mentally refuse things you don't want. 10. Your dominant thoughts attract their physical equivalent. Focus determines reality.
And the summary.
Be definite in everything. Never leave thoughts unfinished. Make definite decisions a habit.
Clarity and decisiveness seem key.
But can you break the drifting habit once it's set?
He says yes, with enough willpower, if you catch it in time. But beyond a certain point, it becomes permanent. He calls this hypnotic rhythm, a natural law.
Like a whirlpool.
Exactly. The harder you struggle negatively within it, the deeper you're pulled. It's the law that locks habits in place, good or bad.
So drifting isn't just laziness, it's actively setting yourself up for this negative spiral, leading to loss of independence, destiny, even your soul.
That's the gravity of it, according to this source. Salvation or staying free means keeping control of your own mind, right here, right now.
The positive force gives us the privilege of using our minds, if we neglect it.
The negative force gains advantage through this hypnotic rhythm. It takes over everything you stop actively controlling with your own thoughts.
Fear of death is the best tool for locking in this rhythm, he claims, because of the uncertainty.
And counterintuitively, he likes it when religious leaders talk about him and hell because it reinforces that fear.
His only worry is real thinkers.
Yes, because they might realize that time spent fearing could be spent gaining what they want. But fear of criticism often keeps potential thinkers quiet.
Scientists, though, are out of his reach.
Generally, yes, because they think for themselves, study natural laws, a religion of truth, he calls it. They rely on evidence and reason, not fear or dogma.
The best propaganda is subtle, making you think the negative idea was yours all along. And this hypnotic rhythm fixes not just thoughts, but environments, like poverty becoming a fixed mental state.
Yes, it solidifies the vibrations of your surroundings and your dominant thoughts. Nature uses this law to fix all habits, mental and physical. It's impartial.
He gives this long, poetic description of himself, the negative, enlightening, pain, war, poverty, lust, fear, envy, greed, destroyer of harmony, hope, faith, inspirer of gossip, discourager of free thought.
Painting himself as the embodiment of all destructive forces, definite and dependable in his negativity.
But even big crises like depressions aren't entirely bad from this perspective.
No, because they break old, potentially negative habits and rhythms. They force change and redistribute opportunity. The idea that there's no opportunity is just a drifter's alibi.
Yeah.
Non-drifters create opportunity.
And no one dodges hypnotic rhythm like gravity.
Correct. But non-drifters make it work for them by setting positive habits and rhythms. Drifters get trapped by negative ones, often from their environment.
How did the interviewer escape it then?
Through a definite desire to understand the mind. That focused intent broke the negative pull. The law itself is neutral. The devil just offers more immediately attractive bribes, easy negative thoughts, destructive actions that feel temporarily good.
We don't need to fear the devil or flatter God, he suggests. Just go straight to the source of power through our own thought.
That's the ultimate message of self-reliance here. You have the power within your own mind.
And he has allies everywhere, even churches and schools.
As unwitting allies, yes. Churches planting fear, schools maybe not teaching critical thought. Both can lead to drifting, which hypnotic rhythm then locks in place.
So you have to consciously choose your rhythm, your habits, through definiteness of purpose, or else the environment imposes its rhythm on you.
Exactly. Man is unique in the ability to establish his own thought rhythm before the environment takes over. Definiteness of purpose is the starting point.
Okay, then the source lists 7 principles for mastering this hypnotic rhythm, for taking control. What's the first?
Definiteness of purpose. Knowing what you want. It closes the door to negative influence, he says. It has to be policy in everything. It's linked to effective prayer, clear intention. Lack of definite knowledge helps the devil.
Makes sense. Number 2.
Mastery over self. Self-discipline. Especially mastering basic desires. Food, sex, the urge to give opinions constantly. Recognize your right to think freely. Lean on your own thoughts.
Okay, 3.
Learning from adversity. Seeing the seed of advantage in every setback. Failure isn't final. It can break negative rhythms and teach self-discipline. Nature uses challenges like illness or failure to force breaks in rhythm. Change is constant.
4.
Controlling environmental influence. This is huge. Consciously choosing your surroundings and influences, physical and mental, to support positive thoughts. Your environment shapes your destiny if you don't shape it first. Thoughts arise from desires and emotions, which then get locked in by repetition and hypnotic rhythm.
You have to actively use your brain for positive thoughts. Otherwise, negativity fills the vacuum from your environment.
Precisely. Nature wants action. It doesn't care about human morals in that sense. It just follows laws, like hypnotic rhythm.
Got it. 5.
The habit of going the extra mile. Rendering more and better service than expected. This attracts positive returns and overcomes negative influences. Nature rewards contribution.
6.
A pleasing personality based on harmony, tolerance, sympathy, kindness. Your outer personality reflects your inner thought habits, which influences relationships, which are key to success and happiness.
And finally, 7.
Accurate thought, the foundation. Distinguishing fact from opinion, keeping an open mind, thinking for yourself. Independent, accurate thought is the only thing this devil figure truly fears.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to unpack from one source.
It really covers a lot of ground using this unique framework.
So, learner, let's try and boil this down. Key takeaways from this unusual deep dive. First, I'd say just the sheer power of your own thoughts. Being deliberate about what you focus on seems critical.
Absolutely. And second, the danger of that passive state, that drifting. It's presented not just as unproductive, but as actively opening the door to negative control through this hypnotic rhythm.
And third, maybe underpinning everything else, is that need for definiteness of purpose. Knowing what you want, having clear goals, seems to be the core defense and the engine for progress in this model.
What was the most surprising thing for you in all this?
I think it's that idea that failure isn't just bad. It can actually be necessary sometimes. That it can be the thing that breaks a negative pattern, that hypnotic rhythm, and allows for a fresh start. That feels counterintuitive, but interesting.
Yeah, reframing adversity.
Yeah.
And also maybe the claim about institutions like churches or schools potentially contributing to drifting through fear or lack of critical thinking focus. That's quite pointed.
Definitely. So for you, learner, listening to this, how does it connect? Think about your own habits of thought. Are you consciously directing them? Are there areas where maybe drifting has crept in? Where could more definiteness of purpose make a difference in your work, your learning, your life?
It's about applying these concepts, seeing if they resonate with your own experience.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on. If our minds truly are the battleground described here, are we actively cultivating the thoughts that strengthen us, or are we passively letting the weeds grow, so to speak?
A powerful question. It really puts the responsibility back on the individual thinker.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, learner. Keep thinking, definitely.